Fred here, welcome back to the Gear Obsession channel. In this episode, I will be going over the method of gripping a pistol and the method of gripping a revolver. And specifically, it's my method, the way that I desire to hold it. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips, and I'm going to give you a couple of don'ts. So hang in with me, and I'll be right back. A couple of days ago, I was viewing a couple of other videos on YouTube. I usually try to get around some of my subscribers and channels that I subscribe to. And one of the videos that really impressed me was by Paul from Humans for Targets. And he went over how he grips his pistol. And I'm like, hey, that's exactly the way that I grip my pistol. He must have been watching some of the competition shooters, because it is a style that's favored amongst the competition shooters. So first, I like to go over how I grip, or how I grip a pistol, and it's basically it's developed over years and years and years. And I'll tell you some of the mistakes that I made, so hopefully I can keep you from doing the same thing. First, I will break out a Glock. This is fully loaded. Doesn't do much good if it's not, right? I'm going to go ahead and make sure we have nothing in there. Safe direction. Okay, and this is officially cleared. Now the way that I hold this pistol is, you grip it like you would normally grip. Now, I went at just holding this grip just like this, and guess what? What feels comfortable when you first grip a pistol is usually wrong. And let me show you why. I just went ahead and gripped this pistol, and you're gonna see I'm wearing my pajamas again. Oh well. When I hold this pistol down like this, okay, like I'm gonna just go ahead and grip this what feels comfortable. And if you notice, it is not in line with my arm. And that's really what feels, for most people, well, not saying everybody, that when you grip your pistol, naturally, the way you would want to grip it, just the way it feels, it's not going to be in a natural alignment with your arm. This is. And guess what? That feels a little awkward at first until you get used to it. And there's a very good reason why you want that alignment. Now, if you're holding it like this, you notice that it brings my finger forward a lot more. So it's very hard to get the pad of your finger on the trigger. And you're supposed to get the very tip, the pad of your finger, onto the trigger to pull. What this does, if you have improper alignment, is a lot of this part of your finger here will come in contact with the side of the gun. So as you depress, you see those muscles right there? It's going to push against the gun. And if you notice, for me, it's going to push a little bit to the left. And what ends up happening is you end up shooting probably left and low. And that was a very bad habit of mine. Now if you have a proper grip where it's in line with your arm, and you have your finger out, you're going to have less in contact with the side of the pistol, and you'll be less apt to influence the direction that the pistol is shooting as you're pressing the trigger. And again, slow, consistent squeeze as you're coming down. So you want to make sure you have that part of the grip correct, making sure that the pistol is aligned with the rest of your arm. Now let's go ahead and wrap this up for the pistol. I'm going to bring it around this side, so you basically have the pistol. This is awkward for me, but you have it held like this. And the way that Paul from Human for Targets holds his pistol is sort of a competition style. If you notice that there is an area here left that your hand is not covering on the grip, and you're going to bring the palm of your hand up into that area, so you have a full 360-degree contact around the grip. And you're going to sort of point your thumbs forward and your finger is pointing forward. You have it indexed to the side of the gun until you're ready to shoot, and then you put your finger on the trigger. Now if you notice, you end up with all these fingers sort of pointing downrange at a target. What this does is it gives you a more natural method of pointing, because you're used to pointing at things with your fingers, right? So this will help you get on target quicker by having 3 of your fingers all pointing at your target. And then when you're ready to shoot, you go ahead and bring your finger into the trigger guard and squeeze the trigger with the pad of your finger, the very end. What this does again is it gets this part of your finger away from the gun so it doesn't influence it while you're pulling the trigger. Now, there's other ways to hold the pistol which are absolutely fine, and that's this method, having one thumb over the other. What this does is it gives you a good strong wrap around with your thumb. Then your other hand comes around and you rest your one thumb on top of the other. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I prefer the same thing that Paul does. Just like that. Alright, so that basically covers everything with the pistol. The only other thing I could really add is you want to get your hand as far up on the pistol as you can safely, where you're not going to get bit in the web of your hand by the slide. It all depends on the model and type of gun that you have, whether or not, you know, how much of a beaver tail you have in there and how much protection you have. So just be aware. But the higher up you could hold that pistol, because of you could control the recoil, the muzzle flip, by getting your hand up to the bore axis as close as possible, so it makes more of the energy come straight back instead of coming up on a pivot. So you want to get your hand up nice and high, get all your fingers pointed, and it helps. And there's no problem with holding it like this either. This is not good. By holding it like this, you're not really doing yourself any justice trying to control the gun. You might as well just shoot one-handed, which is fine. I actually shoot better one-handed some days than I do two-handed, because I have less things I could screw up by just having one hand. So this doesn't do any good. I see a lot of people on YouTube videos where they're shooting like this, palming the bottom. Not going to do you any good. I see some people holding their wrist like this, trying to hold it down, trying to tame their recoil by holding their wrist. No, that's really bad. Don't recommend it. Okay, so that's everything I can really cover as far as the pistol is concerned, and we'll move on to revolvers right after this break, for me. So while I'm taking a break from that, you might have noticed my Matrix screensaver. I know some of you definitely go over every detail of what's on my desk sometimes, because I see it in the comments, and I know someone's going to ask, hey, where'd you get the cool screensavers? Well, that doesn't come with Windows. It came from Kelly Software. So if you go to kellysoftware.com, I'll provide a link below where you can download this really cool Matrix screensaver. And now we'll go ahead and get back to our subject, and that's grips, and we'll talk about the revolvers. So I have a revolver here. By the way, that was a Glock, as far as the pistol was concerned, that was a Glock 22. This is a Ruger LCR. Again, it is loaded. So I'll go ahead and clear it. And we are clear. I don't want to point this at my head. There we go. Not a good thing. Again, always treat your weapon as if it's loaded. So even though it's empty, don't point it at your head, please, or anybody else. Now, if I'm pointing at the camera, even though you end up the camera sort of below, the only thing I can shoot is my camera. There's nobody there, so if I'm pointing at you, don't get excited. It's the camera. Is that weird? Oh, whatever. Anyway, gripping a revolver is very, very different than gripping a pistol, and the main reason is you could blow your finger off if you hold a revolver like a pistol. Let me show you why. Now, if I were to go ahead and grip this, okay, I get my first hand around it, I index my finger along the side, and I take my other hand and try to fit it in like this. Let me show you something. See where my thumb is? Well, guess what? A lot of hot fire and gas come out of this gap right here as the bullet jumps the gap into the barrel, and then a whole bunch of hot gases will come out of that very thin gap right there, and it can cut your finger right off. If you search YouTube, you could see some videos of people really hurting their thumb. I believe Mythbusters actually put a carrot right there and shot, and it just blew the tip of the carrot off. So you don't want your finger close to that gap. So what do you do with your thumb? Well, you got to go back to this type of grip. One thumb over the other, keep it back here, or over here is okay. There's no problem with that. Usually, you know, this doesn't have a hammer back here, but you're going to use this thumb to go ahead and just, you know, if you're going single action, you can pull that back and then fire. Again, same things apply to grip. I'm going to tip the camera down a little bit. You want to make sure that it's in line with your arm. Again, it's going to feel a little awkward, but it does help get your finger better placed to just have the pad of your finger on that trigger. You know, if you're holding it where it does feel better, but it's out of alignment, and you put your finger in, really, it's almost impossible to get your finger pad on the trigger. You're going to end up with your finger all the way through. Now, if you're shooting a Mosin Nagant, a Nagant revolver that has like a 20-pound trigger pull, you might need more of your finger to pull the trigger back. So, but again, you want to hold that correctly, have the pad of your finger, and that keeps this part of your finger from influencing the gun as you're squeezing the trigger. Bring this hand, and this thumb comes over here, and it keeps your fingers clear of the gap. Very important. So that's my grip. Or you could just shoot one-handed. Again, I tend to shoot better one-handed lately. Not sure why. I probably screw a lot of things up with this hand. I don't know. So it's okay to index your finger there, as long as the one that's pulling the trigger, because you're going to move that finger out of the way and pull the trigger. So that's gripping the revolver. Anything sneak in there? No. Still clear. By the way, for my revolver, I do have some of my rounds here. And I have a neat speed loader. This speed loader is made by HKS. It's pretty cool. And the ammunition that I have loaded in there is Critical Defense by Hornady. It's pretty cool. Has a little plastic stopper in there. It's a hollow point, but they stick a piece of plastic in there. So if you're shooting through, well, first of all, it makes it fly better through the air because it's a little more aerodynamic instead of having that hole in the front. And it also keeps it from getting clogged as it hits the target. If that target has a lot of clothes and stuff, it won't sort of clog the cavity there, the hollow point. So it keeps that out so you get better expansion. Really nice rounds. One day I'll go ahead and test them, see how they compare. But the weather is not really that great to be going out shooting yet, but once it starts getting warm, you'll see a lot more shooting videos from me. Anyway, we could almost wrap this up. I don't know if you're interested in the little computer I was working on. I know based on the comments and views and responses, it seems like y'all love computer-related videos and electronics too, so I'll go ahead and throw this in at the end, so stay with me. Alright, so I'll come in here, check that out. All that matrix stuff. Alright, so what I have done is have my magic jack sort of sticky to the side of the case. I also, where I had the fan, I eventually just cut out the hole. Tell you what, let me get a flashlight here. What I eventually did, where did it go? There it is. What I eventually did was just cut a hole out of the grid there, and I found this nice outside mount to screw on there to get the airflow better, because the cores of the processor were kind of hot. It was running about 10 degrees Celsius hotter than I wanted it to. So I replaced the CPU fan in there to help things along, and used some really good thermal paste on there, and also opened this up even more for the fan. So now it's running nice and cool, about 32 degrees Celsius while at idle, and it rarely goes over 42 even under heavy load. So that's right where I want it to be. And again, it's running my Magic Jack right there. I love my Magic Jack. It does a good job. And now I can stay on 24/7 with this nice little low power ITX computer. I even stuck my little Intel sticker on there. I'm an Intel fan. I'm not the biggest fan for AMD, but I'm not bashing AMD. Really nothing bad about it. I've just always stuck with Intel. You caught me loading back up. Anyway, so that's another episode of the Gear Obsession channel. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I appreciate every friend, viewer, and subscriber out there. Please come again. Oh my God, that sounded bad. Please come back again. I really appreciate it. And have a good evening.